hello. They go, is this the new late night host for Fox? And I almost crashed my car. I had to pull over and catch my breath.
There we go. Welcome to Howie Mandel Does Stuff. I'm Howie Mandel.
I'm Jacqueline Schultz.
And we are graced today with an amazing icon of comedy. Spike, how you pronounce the last name? Feresten? Feresten?
That was great.
That was good.
Perfect. That was it.
Yeah, Feresten. But I noticed, like, even in our office, people were going, Spike Feresten's here. Feresten or
Frankenstein. Fernstein. I've heard every iteration of this my entire life.
We all know who you are. We just don't know how to say your name.
I apologize.
You don't have to apologize. For those that
it's actually not a hard last name.
No,
either.
it isn't. Why do you think there's so many iterations in people's mind?
My grandfather was Jewish. And he married an
It's
Irish,
always the Jews. You
an
always
Irish,
blame everything on the Jews.
It is the Jews' fault. They married this Irish woman, and then this was something you didn't do back in the day. So he said, I'm going to take some letters out of the name. Took the I out. I think it used to be Ferenstein. Didn't go far enough.
Like the Baron. You're like a Berenstein bear.
Yeah,
A Ferenstein bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I
You know
am.
what's amazing, though? To talk about his lineage that he comes from. We come from a culture where we know about buying vowels. We've never seen somebody remove them. We've never to make it work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Look at how we started.
So
Why
Spike,
not make it simple? Ferris. Fair.
you can do that. You can do whatever you
I
want.
can change it. I already changed the first name. It's already.
Did you change it? That's a nickname.
That's a nickname, yes.
For your hair.
But here you are. You just introduced me as that guy. But I'm Michael. I'm Michael Donovan Feresten. Michael Irishman Jew. That's who I am.
Wow, cheap, said the bird, the Irish and the Jew. See what I did? Mm-hmm. Okay, so anyway, Michael. But Spike, more people will know you, and we'll get more clicks on this podcast.
Yes.
We use. Do people call you Michael?
Just my mom.
Okay.
That's it.
And not me.
No.
So Spike
don't.
is responsible for some of the biggest laughs the world has had over the last, I'd say, 2 decades.
Come on.
Well, let's take a trip down memory lane. So Spike was a young man working as an intern at NBC at Rockefeller Center, right?
Yeah.
Passing jokes off to Dennis Miller for Weekend
Right.
Update.
Yes.
Right? Did you aspire at that time to be a comedian?
No. I thought I had just bailed out of college at Berklee College of Music.
You're a musician.
I was.
What do you play?
Guitar. But I wrote. I was mostly writing music. And
Did you want that to be your career?
I thought I was going to end up writing elevator music.
Oh, wow. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
or
What
jingles, or little radio songs.
So
Yeah.
you were a musician at the Berklee School of Music who
Yeah.
aspired to entertain us on our way up, and or during in between the show that we chose to watch. Like you didn't have any aspirations of being like Hans Zimmer. Or...
I thought maybe I could be Hans Zimmer, but really what I thought was I was going to be, Muzak or a music teacher.
People forget about Muzak, but
Yeah,
I bought
it
a
was
Muzak.
Muzak.
I bought a Muzak album. I once had it on the Tonight Show. There was an album. Muzak is that elevator or doctor waiting room music that you hear that you always wonder, like, who are these people in the studio?
Elevator music.
Yeah.
What's that music playing in the elevator? It
Right.
sounds like a song that I know, but it's just an organ or something.
And they have an album for that?
They used to. Well, I don't know. They did.
I wasn't aiming high.
But you know that that music in the elevator, I always aspire just to meet you, because I think when I'm in the elevator and you hear like that, you go, there's people playing this. There's
Yeah.
people who know that they're playing this not for a concert, not for somebody to stream, not for anything but it's made for the elevator.
Right. That's all there was.
No, there's a much bigger world out there.
Now computers are doing it. So
right, but
I
I'm
would have
saying
been out of work.
for a human being to aspire to entertain.
It wasn't aspire. It was, this is probably where I'm going to end up.
You didn't set a big
No, you'd have to.
Goal.
I mean, in high school, I came from, before the internet. That's where I come from, like you.
Right.
And so I'm in a small town. I had a band, and I was
a band that played in elevators.
in high school. I was like Harry Styles for some reason. Like I really owned the school. because
Wait,
I
wait.
performed in plays and I played Rolling Stones cover. It was a very small school, but there was we were in a little bubble.
And you were like the Harry Styles.
I was the Harry Styles. Can you imagine that?
If we talk to a young woman of your era,
They were all offered to me. Yes, they all threw themselves down at my feet. I didn't understand it, but I think it had something to do with the fact that I would pick up a guitar with my band and play at the parties or for school events or between basketball halftime shows. I used to be a performer. But because I had no competition outside of this little bubble of, say, 400 kids in our high school.
Where'd you grow up?
West Bridgewater, Massachusetts.
Okay.
This is a place I still love.
Okay.
But because there was no internet, there was no YouTube,
There
was a lot focused on me.
You were the only direction.
Yes. So then I spun out of that small town into Boston, where I was absolutely nothing. And Berklee College of Music, all the kids from the hometowns who were the Harry Styles were all there. And then suddenly, I was lost, completely lost. So I started in on this music scoring program and then, lowered my expectations.
And then you you apply to NBC?
No. I was watching this David Letterman show every night.
Didn't you get kicked out of school?
I didn't get kicked out of school. I got kicked out of the dorms.
Okay. What?
Because he's a rock and roller like Harry Styles. Why did you get kicked out?
I read this story and it reminded me kind of your story and how you found comedy.
Yes. I was throwing light bulbs one night, drinking beer with my friends and throwing light bulbs on a Mass Ave from my 8th floor window.
Right?
Yeah. Big fluorescent light bulbs. Not trying to hit people, just watching them kind of explode beautifully below.
Right.
And the security guard came out and saw us and booted us out. But about 2 or 3 weeks later, I saw Letterman doing a tower drop.
Right.
I thought, this guy is getting paid for what I just got kicked out of the dorms for. Maybe this is, and I really thought this, maybe this is where I belong, network television. And that's what started me thinking, there's not something wrong with me, but there clearly was. But that this maybe is a place that will accept me. This network TV, this show, this David Letterman guy.
So what do you do? How do you go from watching this on TV, the guy's doing something close to what you just got expelled for?
And I don't know anybody.
Right. So what do you do? Well,
first I went to the show. My roommate got tickets, and we went to New York. And and I bet my friends on the floor I could get onto the show, which I did that night.
So that you got to get on camera?
I said I will get on camera in some way because I was just obsessed with David Letterman. And at the top of the show, he said, we're going to hand out its lyrics to "O Canada." We're going to have the audience sing "O Canada." So are there any Canadians out in the audience? And I just ran right up onto the stage.
Is this on YouTube?
It will be. Letterman folks just interviewed me, my favorite moments, and I had kept that a secret from them from all these years because you know how Dave is sensitive about people who really like him a lot. You remember the women that would show up at his house?
Yeah.
But he had that level of obsession with his fans, and I was one of those people.
But if we look up people singing "O Canada" from the audience from Letterman,
I don't know if it's on YouTube yet, but it's going to be. It's going to be on Dave's channel, and for a split second, you'll see me in my '80s sport coat.
So you ran up.
I ran up,
and you won the bet.
And I won the bet.
What did you win?
I went back, and everything I had seen, the show, and the way it was run, and just with 30 Rock, all of it, I just knew this is where I have to work. This place was made for me. Does that make sense? It just
Absolutely.
It just called to me in a way that nothing else had ever called to me. And
is it there? Do you guys see it?
There's "O Canada."
Is this? I wonder if that's the.
That's us singing.
You see it?
The audience.
See it? Oh wait, here we go.
There you go.
Put some sound on this.
Thursday is always a special night.
Oh yeah, this is Don Giller who posted this.
We certainly hope you at home are enjoying it as much as we are.
Now wait. Let's do it. You want them standing for this?
No, this is.
No, that was that first one.
Yeah, it's the first one. It's when people are coming up.
The first one.
I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
That's not it.
300 strangers.
No.
Oh, 300 strangers. It's that.
So
It's
now you know what I'm talking about when I say that Thursday is kind of a special night
That's
for us
the
here.
right year.
It's very special for me.
But you'd have
What do you
to,
think,
you'd
Kevin?
see people
Here's
coming
our
up
friend,
onto
Mr. Paul
stage, and
Schaefer
he's
from
handing out
Canada.
lyric sheets
fast forward.
from the monologue mark.
That's it.
Oh, because Paul's from Canada.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
It's not going to happen. You guys look for it on your own and see.
Yeah,
Maybe it doesn't
yeah,
exist.
yeah.
Or if it does, we'll put it in after.
I think it's about to be put up by the Letterman folks
Okay.
because, I worked at Dave's show for 5 years, and for all 5 years, I was terrified that they would find out about this moment.
Well, let me.
This moment of desperation.
So
on
let's
my
let's
part.
go back. Okay, so now you say that's where I have to work,
Yeah,
and you
I go
apply,
back.
You
I'm
apply
a-
to David Letterman.
I'm a bartender at Legal Seafoods.
A lot of people came out of there. No. Legal Seafoods is in Boston.
It's in Boston.
Right.
I'm in Boston. I go to school during the day. I am bartender and an oyster shucker at night, shucking oysters for the likes of Ted Kennedy and John Kerry and folks like that.
Did
and
you
then
meet
a lot
them?
of tourists. Yeah.
You met John Kennedy.
Ted Kennedy
Oh, you said
and John
Ken-
Kerry.
Oh, John Kerry. That's what I'm saying. You said John Kennedy. You did.
Did I?
Yeah, I think you did.
I don't know.
Did he? He did. You lied.
That would be amazing. if
That's why
was
I thought.
shucking
That's why I
oysters for
stopped you.
JFK.
But that's what I thought.
That would be incredible.
That's why I stopped you. But let's go. Okay, so now and you call who?
A new hostess walks in with a Letterman varsity jacket just out of the blue, maybe a month after I see this Letterman show. And I left the bar, walked right up to her, and I said, "What's your name?" She goes, "Harriet." She goes, "I'm the new hostess." I go, "Where did you get the jacket?" She goes, my boyfriend works for David Letterman on the show. He's a graphics guy. I go, "Can you get me an intern?" She goes, "Do you want to even tell me your name?" I go, "Spike." I'm the bartender. And she said, "You know what? He's still in love with me. We just broke up, and now I'm here, but I'll call him if you want." And I go, "I want. You can really set that up." And she did. And she called this guy, Bob Pook was his name.
Bob
Still
Pook.
is, Bob Pook. And he said, "Sure, come do an internship."
So
And
this
there
is
it
all
was.
because of Harriet.
This is all because of Harriet, who then later weirdly became David Mamet's personal assistant. Like,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Magic
You said-
time and
It is.
hosting and bartending at Legal Seafoods.
So now you're an intern at Letterman.
Yeah. Now I'm an intern at Saturday Night Live and Letterman. And
Oh,
then-
both. You do both.
Yeah. I was Bob Pook at the time. You remember all of this, right? There were art cards. You had to aim cameras at things. And then
Right.
they had this new thing called Paintbox. So I was the guy who, let's say they did a Peanuts joke or a Charlie Brown joke.
Right.
I was the guy who was sent out into New York City to find a picture or drawing of Snoopy holding a football or looking disappointed. So I was going
For
to
Weekend Update.
for Weekend Update and for Shecky and Brian McAloon at Letterman for any jokes Dave did. Same thing. You literally had to go out into libraries and tear pages out of books and sneak them out and bring them in so they could shoot them.
At this time, a young Spike, what do you like that you've engaged in a world that you wanted to
Yeah.
be in? But is this what did you have in mind? Like when you were at Berkeley, you go, okay, this is probably going to end up being the elevator. I'm going to be the elevator music guy. As the intern at Letterman, what did you want? What were you going for?
Well, I had a couple of problems. One, I lived in Boston, so
You were commuting?
I was commuting.
No, you weren't.
I was.
How were you commute?
It was the only way I could do it. I had to do a double shift Sunday and Monday, double shifts to make money. And then Tuesday morning, I would scoot and get on Apple Air. Remember,
Yeah.
there was a student flight for $29, and I would fly and sleep on my friend's in Brooklyn's floor, and I would work for both shows. And then Saturday night after Saturday Night Live, I would take a train at 3 a.m. after the party and be back in Boston for
After
next
the
week.
party. You went to the parties.
Yeah, of course. Well, you have to.
Did you see anything amazing at the parties? Those are the days where like Mick
Yeah.
Jagger, the Rolling Stone. Did you
Well,
party with them?
everybody was there. Yeah, I mean, Ben Stiller was just starting out there. Bob Odenkirk was just starting out there. It was great. It was the whole thing was like a movie. My favorite year. When I watch my favorite year, I think about those years, and back to your original question. The more I saw, the more I wanted to be a part of this.
When you say be a part of it, in any particular, did you want to be on camera?
I was, I did, bits here and there. They always put the PAs in. I was just feeling around for where I kind of fit in, and it was really Dennis and wanting to write things for Dennis where I felt like I think I can do this. And I started writing jokes for Dennis and
without being asked to.
What was the first time when you actually wrote a joke and you decided to like give it to him or slip it to him?
He was great. You're terrified that he's going to start screaming at you. And he was like, oh, thanks. He just thanked me for it. And I wrote for a few weeks and didn't get anything on. And then on the very last show that I was an intern, he did one of my jokes.
You remember the joke?
I don't remember. Everybody asked me that question. I don't remember the joke. It was something about Disney dollars and some tangential connection to something going on in politics. But I remember the hit. I think it's like, what crack feels like the first time you smoke it, that first high. That I very clearly remember. And then I was done. I was
done.
Like, this is what I want to do. That I wrote something on a piece of paper and then it came out of that TV. That was like nothing else I'd ever experienced.
You, as somebody who, likes to be in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And I know you do too, and you're very good at it, and you've been great at it.
Thank
and
you.
I before we did the podcast, I said we have to see more of you on camera. I think there's
Thank you.
That's a missed opportunity that a lot of people are overlooking. But the point is that if you write something funny and then you hand it to somebody and they get a big laugh, was there ever any of that kind of animosity as far as, I wish I could say it? Like, I mean, it's great that you got it on TV.
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all. No, because it was such a challenge to learn how to do that. And I was such a big fan of Dennis's and still am. And I just, it was such a thrill. This is a show I had grown up watching, like so many folks had grown up watching. I remember the first time I saw it, my dad woke me up and he said, you got to see this show. This is, I don't know, it's why I had one of these comedy dads.
What do your parents do?
You got to listen to this George Carlin album. You got to listen to this,
What did your dad do? What did he do?
Nothing now. He's not around, but he was a salesman. Mom was a nurse, but he was a frustrated comedian. So everything from, Jerry Lewis was his hero, Jonathan Winters, but, really all the great, comics from our generation. That was his thing.
So now you get a joke on Saturday Night Live. What was the next iteration?
How to do more of this?
No, but you weren't hired as a writer. You weren't paid as a writer.
No.
So you were an intern. So how do you make it as a
It sounds very dramatic, but I was leaving that night at 3 a.m. and the party was on the skating rink at 30 Rock, and that was the end of it. I was going back to Boston for good, and as I was on my way out, I saw one of the people I was interning under at the omelet table at the omelet station. And I stopped for a second. I went, oh, should I go in and say goodbye to Ed again? And said, yeah, why don't I go? I'll go and say it's the right thing to do. So went over to Ed Hall. Do you know Ed Hall?
No.
He was the announcer, I think, on the Tonight Show for a while.
I do know. Yes, I do know who he is.
And he was doing graphics at the time on the show. And I, said, Ed, thank you for the opportunity. Everything was great. And he goes, yeah, if you ever want to come back and just do a straight intern for Letterman, let me know. I said, really? Because that's all I really wanted. I wanted out of the graphic department and I wanted on that show. And he goes, yeah, just give me a call. So went back to Boston, sold all my stuff, called Ed, and said, hey, I want to take you up on that offer you made. And he goes, what offer? I said, you told me I could come, do an internship for Letterman. He goes, I was really drunk that night. Did I say that? Shit. And I go, even the way you did, Ed. And he said, all right, let me figure it out. And he figured it out. And he got me the internship. And I moved to New York with enough money for a month, and it all sort of worked out.
You know what this teaches people? They should just make shit up. They should be like, remember that time you told me that I can have a job? And they're like, no, you said it. And then, and then you just get jobs that way.
Yeah, this is where being drunk really worked. It's out for me. But it really, I think what you should learn from that is always say goodbye to people.
Yeah.
And omelets.
These little tiny moments, like that moment is so small. And I could have just gone, I got to get on the train and get home.
And
I'm tired.
and we wouldn't have the history you have. You've written
don't think
some of
so.
the most, we won't go through each iteration of your career. Your name became synonymous with Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
with the show.
Yeah.
And you wrote some of the most iconic episodes. Did you write the Soup Nazi?
Yeah, that was the first one.
Right. And in writing with and working with Larry David.
Yeah.
The Soup Nazi, you're writing something. Was that your idea or?
Yeah. And if in fact
it's a real place.
It starts with your idea, and then Jerry and Larry and the rest of the writers turn it into an episode, right? But the idea, the thing that usually kicks off an episode was you'd walk in and you'd pitch the two of them just like this. And I did. It was my first pitch. I'd worked for Dave for 5 years, knew nothing about sitcom writing, but they were just like, come tell us stories about living in New York. We've been out here for a long time. We want to know what life is like back there, And I pitched 5 or 6 ideas. They had those looks on their face as I'm pitching, and I'd been told if they laugh, you'll get an episode on. But if they're not laughing, if they're just kind of looking at you like you guys are looking at me now, they'd go like this. You keep pitching because you don't have anything yet, right? So I pitched, nothing. I'm kind of flop sweating, and Larry goes, what else you got? What else is happening in New York? Where do you go to lunch? Some question like that. I said, we eat at this place called the Soup Nazi. Larry starts laughing for the first time in the pitch. He goes, what? I go, they call him the Soup Nazi because if you don't order your soup correctly, then he yells at you. And he goes, well, why do you keep going there? And he goes, nobody knows. The soup is really good. They put up with the abuse. And now the two of them are dying, and I'm very confused. They go, hey, that's your episode. That's the one. Soup Nazi. Perfect. Get out. Such a confusing pitch. I walked out not even understanding what had happened.
Because it wasn't anything that you planned on going in and pitching?
Yeah, it was just like telling them a story about the weird guy at the Dunkin' Donuts this morning before, it was such it wasn't.
And they said, go write the
They said, go write the Soup Nazi. And I went, great. And I walked out and I went to Gamble and Prost, 2 of the writers on the show, got me on staff. And so they said to write the Soup Nazi. And they go, that's great. Yeah, we heard the laugh and you sold the show. Tom talks like that. He talks like a cartoon character. And I said, okay. He goes, just turn it into an episode. He goes, you've got the shred. Now you've got the little the little thread of it, the little bit of it. You've got to plot it out and figure it out. And that's where the work started. And
then you wrote it. And then
you outlined back then. You would outline up till the act break, right? So you had to figure out, okay, here's this place that who am I in the story? I'm a couple of different guys. I'm Jerry in the beginning going, what? There's a soup guy? You have to order it right? I go, I know how to order soup. There's George, who's skeptical. Kramer, we thought, well, maybe he'd be a friend of the Soup Nazi. He's an eclectic, and so's the Soup Nazi, so they'll get along. Elaine will hate him based on principle. And you started kind of outlining the scenes of the story and what's going to be funny about it. And, there were lots of holes. But at some point, you would then, maybe a month later, bring Larry and Jerry in and take them through the board. Here's.
What, so you got cards up on a board? And are you...
No, dry erase, no cards. Everything has to be dry erase. Everything's color-coded, kind of dry erase marker, and you'd walk them through beats. Jerry and George talk about the Soup Nazi. George gets rejected. Maybe later on, Elaine beats the Soup Nazi. We don't know how. You just kind of plot it out.
No line, no dialogue, just story points.
Maybe no soup for you is probably the only line of dialogue I know at that point. And then, in the meantime, even before Larry and Jerry there, you're bringing in the other writers. They're helping you with yours. You're helping. And it was a real team effort. But there was never a moment, at least that season, where we got a bunch of writers in a room and wrote. You took the script as far as you could take it. You went to script and wrote it, and then Larry
Are you hired,
and Jerry,
or are they buying the script? Are you hired on?
I'm on staff. Yeah, I'm on staff.
Based on that pitch?
No, the pitch came before. The pitch was at Larry's house a few months before, where he said to pitch some ideas.
Right.
It was my second time pitching the show.
His house?
At his house, yeah.
So then how do you get hired from that? How do you get hired on staff?
Well, he hired me in that moment.
Oh, from the pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
That's
year
the amazing-
previous,
Yeah.
I went out to Larry's house and I pitched a bunch of ideas and they hired Bergen Schaefer. They only had one spot, so everybody was vying for one spot. The next year, they called me back. It was, it really came out of an uncomfortable moment with Jerry in the elevator at Letterman, where it was Friday. It was a bad week. I was burned out. I was tired. And Jerry was on the show that night. And Dave was up on the 14th floor, right? So
Right.
Jerry and Dave had been chatting. We're coming down the elevator. I get on 12, and there's the guy who just didn't hire me, like maybe 3 or 4 months ago. Didn't hire me. And he's talking to Mary Connolly, the segment producer, and I'm like, I know these people are going to lose. They've talked as much as they can talk, and they're going to turn to me at some point, and I don't want to talk to Jerry Seinfeld right now because I'm going to say something I'm going to regret. Like, why didn't you hire me? And sure enough, 5th floor, Mary goes, this is Spike Feresten, one of our writers. And Jerry goes, didn't you do a submission for us? And I go, yep, I did. And he goes, whatever happened to that? And I go, shouldn't you know that? And then I went, did I just say that to Jerry Seinfeld? And I walked out and, just like, God damn it, I'm never going to get hired on that show. Weirdly, after that, I got asked back to come and do another submission. Flew out to Larry's house. Do you ever go to where Larry lived at the time in Pacific Palisades? This giant, beautiful mansion. Get brought in by the maid into the kitchen, and I'm just standing there. His little dog comes out, and I go to pet it, and it scares the dog, and it just wets the floor. And then Larry walks in. Oh, you made the dog pee. All right, okay, let's go out back then. It's okay. I'll get that. So that's how that pitch started. I don't even remember what I pitched, but I think the Little Kicks was on that list. And,
Wow.
he said, I like this stuff. I like the way you think. I like what's that you kind of have your ear to the sidewalk. He said something like that in New York. I'm hiring you. He goes, I just don't understand why you put Michael on your pitch list there. Isn't your name Spike? And I go, yeah, it was a nickname I got at Saturday Night Live. Real name's Michael. And he goes, I like Spike better. I'm hiring Spike.
That's fantastic.
And then slammed the gate in my face. So that was the pitch that got me on. Then there was the actual work, which was this very first pitch of season 7, where you went in and, you got to sell something in the sense that you've got to get them to send you to episode or you're going to probably get fired.
Wow. So the pressure was always on. It's kind of like that Saturday Night Live pressure that
Yeah.
the former writers talk about just...
It's much more intense than that, and it's much
It is?
faster. And Letterman was a 13-week cycle for a writer. So week 9, you're always waiting for the knock at the door. Like, they have to let you know by week 9 if they're not going to pick up your contract. So that was every 13 weeks. Seinfeld, you would hear about other writers who just didn't fit into that little culture. It was a very small operation, not unlike what you have going on here. It felt very small and insulated, but you had to be able not even to write, but pitch stories that would make Jerry and Larry laugh, right? So there was a lot of weight on that first pitch session. If you left it and you didn't then have an episode to work on, you were probably in a bit of trouble.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And then you also, do you direct?
No.
You've never directed?
No. I mean,
You produce. Producing is writing.
I mean, what? And credited director? No. But have I directed segments before? Yeah.
Did you ever want to, like when you went to Letterman the first time as an audience member and said, I'm going to get on camera, when you were writing Seinfeld, did you ever want to, and did you play any characters in the show?
No.
And you didn't want to?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I'd imagine that if his thought was he was going to be making elevator music, and now you're writing on Seinfeld, like you've already feel like you've reached your goals, right? Or far exceeded your goals. Did you not? I'm sure you didn't have expectations to then be in front of the camera, did you?
Yeah, you did.
You did?
I did. But let's go back to the Soup Nazi. After we shot it on the night that the OJ verdict came in, which, do
Wow.
you remember that day?
Okay, who doesn't?
It wasn't, I thought, a good day for comedy. It was just a day that everybody was just shell-shocked. And I went, now I'm kind of screwed. Weirdly, the show went off at 5 or 6 that night, and the audience laughed pretty hard, and it all worked out. As we were in the edit room, Larry and I was just sitting there. Larry was doing all the editing. I was fairly certain I had written the worst episode of Seinfeld, that I would single-handedly bring down this show.
You didn't see it as being
Oh, no.
funny? It's one of the funniest.
I know now that you can experience it that way. Someone told, I just worked with someone, a producer, who said there are two kinds of writers: writers who just love everything they write, and writers that hate everything that they write. And I said, well, I'm kind of in the middle. I really feel like I got a good barometer on stuff, but I'm learning I'm not. That after I've written something and it's shot, it's very hard for me to like it and see it. I kind of set that aside now. I don't think about it that way, and I kind of put it together the way I think it should be put together. But never is there a moment where I'm like, I did it that time. Look at that. And so the Soup Nazi, I'm sitting next to Larry, and he goes, I can't. We finished editing. He goes, I can't look at this thing any longer. Now, he's making an innocent comment there. But I'm interpreting it as, I can't look at this thing any longer. Just, we're done with it, right?
Right.
And then it airs, and I watched it by myself, and there was an early Seinfeld forum up there, and there was one post, and it just said, worst episode ever.
No.
And I went, I knew it. I went out and got drunk and came in the next morning expecting the worst, and nobody's talking at breakfast. Larry and the writers were all having breakfast. And then Jerry came in and he said, boy, I got a lot of good phone calls last night. I haven't been getting phone calls at all about the show. Got a lot. And then his assistant, Carol Brown, came in and said, hey, we're on TV. Hey, all the New York press has picked up on the Soup Nazi. And the whole thing just kind of flipped like a fairy tale. But
wow.
Yeah. That's
Wow.
when I realized this was something bigger than that I thought it was.
And it's iconic. You don't even have to watch. You say the Soup Nazi, and that's synonymous with the Seinfeld show. People know that, and that's just like an innocent story that you told.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Do you ever come outside of yourself and go, "This is fucking amazing"?
No, but it's cool. I like it. I It was really a writer on Letterman, Dave Hansen, who introduced me to the Soup Nazi. I essentially was George. He goes, we're going to this Soup Nazi guy. I go, the Soup Nazi? He goes, that's what they call him. That's his nickname. Just order your soup correctly. And it's from the episode. It's there are lots of little moments in there that really happened.
That was the beauty of that show.
Yeah,
because they were all people's personal experiences. Jumping ahead. You have the longest running talk show on Fox, and the late night talk show.
3 years.
but nobody has lasted 3 years on Fox doing a talk show, a late night talk show. What got you into that? Why did you want to? So that's a big leap.
It is.
From being a producer writer on the most successful sitcom, I think, in history, and a writer on, I know you wrote Simpsons and you wrote you wrote for Letterman. You have established yourself as behind the scenes genius. What was the impetus for saying I want to do a talk show?
Development, a world you know all too well.
Go ahead.
I spun out of Seinfeld with a bunch of development deals, successive development deals, where they essentially handed you giant bags of money, which was nice, but said, you've got to make the next Seinfeld or better, right?
Right.
And as you know, there's an element of television that is pure dumb luck. You never know what you're going to write or what you're going to do. That you can't just be paid to make a hit. Maybe you can. I haven't figured it out yet, but.
What did you do right after Seinfeld?
I went into development deals and would sell pilots, and nothing really went. And truthfully, my heart really wasn't in it. I had made a decision to take money instead of follow, my inner voice of what I wanted to work on.
What did you
and
want to
really,
work on?
what I missed was writing for Letterman. And I thought, well, I can't go back and do that. I like the immediacy of seeing what's happening in the world and then writing about it. Why don't I try to create my own show? And what that meant was, who could I get to host a show that I run, that I create, that's a new late night show? And Norm Macdonald was that guy.
I
just thought Norm is, he's just a natural late night host. And I set up a meeting with Norm, and he wanted to meet at Norm's. Remember Norm's Diner?
Did he really?
Yeah, he's like, we got to meet at Norm's, and sat down with him, and I said, let's program the 12:30 hour. I got some juice off of this Seinfeld thing. That's not exactly what they're looking for, but I think we could put you, at ABC, or we could put you after Dave. I can't remember where there was a spot. It's a great idea, Spike. And I say, he goes, so what's the premise? And I go, the premise is you in a suit behind a desk telling jokes, the monologue, and then you interview people. He goes, yeah, but what's it about? And I go, well, you should watch Dave. It's about you going after him. And he goes, no. What is the show? And he could never he kept coming at me like, we need an idea behind it. And I said, we don't. You're such a gifted storyteller, and you're so funny, and the only thing that's going to be hard for you is to manufacture interest in celebrities when you're interviewing them, but I'm confident you can do that. But he couldn't wrap his head around it, and eventually passed on the idea. And
Is it because he was talking to you, who had the reputation of creating a sitcom, that he thought that maybe this is...
No.
It sounds
no.
like he thought this was going to be like a scripted...
I think he was a little ahead of everyone. Like, he kind of saw where the late night landscape was heading, and you could have a little more of a targeted audience, like a sports talk show, or even a Bill Maher type show, which is political, is a pre-Daily show, right? There's a premise there. But still, there was space in mainstream late night, and that's what I was going for. So CAA called up my agent, and I said, let's just do it with me. Conan had just done it. Let's see if we can figure it out. And nobody was interested. Lorne Michaels was interested in a little while, but then kind of lost interest in it. And I remember walking, I was in New York, and my agent called, and he said, hey, I don't think this is going to work out. I think we've exhausted all our options. And I go, all right. And he goes, well, maybe there's one. It's another one of these little moments. I know this guy over at Fox. Let me just call them. Calls him up. He goes, yeah, they want to hear this. And I walked in. The Fox studio people, this is great. We've been looking for somebody to do late night. And I go, really? And they go, yeah. And we just sold a show to the guy running the network. I can't remember who the unscripted guy is over there.
Mike Darnell?
Mike Darnell.
Yeah.
We just sold a show last week to Mike Darnell. Why don't we go in there this week? He's still so excited about the show. Meanwhile, I have no idea what this show is. So we walked in and pitched him out. And he goes, this is great. Let's do a pilot. Just like that. It was one of those pure dumb luck moments, timing-wise. We did a bunch of pilots. And then who was running the network at that time?
Riley? Kevin Riley?
No, this is before.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's going to kill me. She's going to kill me. I don't
It's a she?
Yeah. Gail Berman.
Gail Berman.
Okay. I'm a month after shooting this dumb pilot for nothing. I'm in Beverly Hills. My phone rings. It's Darnell and Berman on the phone. And I go, hello. They go, is this the new late night host for Fox? And I almost crashed my car. I said, what? They go, we're watching this. We're picking up your show. Congratulations. Essentially, you're going to be the Conan O'Brien of Fox. And I had to pull over. That was such a moment of, I can't believe this is happening. I had to pull over and catch my breath, right? I talked to the people who produced it. We're going to the Polo Lounge tomorrow. Get ready. This is going to be amazing. I can't believe this is happening. Don't tell anybody, which is another funny aspect of this. Don't tell anybody.
No. Don't tell anybody you're going to be on network
Tell
television.
anybody that the greatest thing in the world has just happened to you. And maybe about a week later, we're in the Polo Lounge, and Gail Berman quits or gets fired. And the whole thing just gets paused, just gets stopped, right? Well, you know this moment. You must know this moment. When you have development, you have a show,
right?
And then the development team gets fired or leaves.
That happens.
The whole slate goes, right?
Right.
And you're always going in the beginning, even though you know in your heart it's going away. You're going, are we okay? We're fine. Are you sure? You sure? Turns out we're not, right? And we had to wait. Peter Liguori was then hired. I think we waited about a year, but they didn't let it go. they held on, and Peter was focused on prime time for a long time, and eventually came back to late night and said, let's do this right. Let's do some more pilots. Let me fly you to New York and work with this interview coach that everybody from Jimmy Kimmel to Conan to Leno has worked with.
There's an interview coach.
Oh, so weird.
You didn't get that when you had your talk
I didn't.
show?
I've never had an interview.
No.
coach.
Oh,
I
this
think I
is
need
so
one.
weird. So we shot 6 or 7 shows on the Best Damn Sports Show stage with Jason Bateman, Jerry. I was calling in favors all over the place. And then I would take that little 1/2-inch cassette under my arm and fly to New York. I would go into this small little office, and this guy would take the cassette. I don't even know who this guy is, but it looks like he should have been selling insurance or something. He was not who you expected. It's not like Lester Holt or somebody,
Right.
just somebody connected to this business. And he'd put it in, and he'd sit in front of the TV like this, and I would be behind him, and he'd watch. He'd go, there's a party going on here, but it's not your party. And he would just make statements like that. And I go, excuse me? He goes, there's a party going. You got to make this your party. And I go, okay. And I sit and watch some more, and he go, shaking it.
Wow.
I did it like 5 or 6 times, and it never failed to just ruin my confidence or anything that I had, any sort of like confidence I had been building up just was right out the window.
And you didn't get any pointer or tip, or
I still don't know what the point of this was. No.
You know what this guy's name is?
I don't. No, I'd have to go back. It was so demoralizing, but interesting. It was just the beginning of being in front of the camera, which is a whole new level of demoralizing weirdness. But because you're getting instant feedback about how you look and everything else. And then, at some time after that, I got called to Las Vegas to some affiliate meeting, and I'm backstage, and Peter Lagori's there, and he says, I want you to just come out and say a few words about what you're thinking about doing. I go, okay. And he goes, just walk out. You don't want me to do jokes? And he goes, no, just come out and say hi. It's Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.
That's prime time for comedy.
Prime time for comedy at Vegas, right. And I hear Peter Lagori go, here's our, we've just picked up Talk Show with Spike Feresten. He's our new late night guy. Didn't even tell me he had picked the show up. I heard it as I'm walking up the stairs, just dazed. Like, did you just say we got picked up? And he goes, congratulations. And it was a wild moment, just a wild
You have so many of these
moment.
wild, crazy moments.
Yeah. Well, that's why I got into the business. I saw it. I love television. I love entertainment. It's, it's not always fun like that. In fact, mostly it's.
Did you enjoy the process, being at the desk as opposed to being
that really felt like everything I had learned up until that point. Now I can learn.
You're not answering the question. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I loved it. I loved it.
So is it hard?
But it took a while, like, getting back to, you kept asking me on Seinfeld, did I want to jump on stage? I didn't, because I wanted to learn how to write. And then once I knew how to write and once I knew how to produce, then I had this new thing. How do you perform? How can you, how do you do that quickly? And I had the ability to call friends and go, Jerry, how do I cover myself until I learn how to perform in front of a camera? And he goes, if you talk loud, people will think you know what you're doing. That was his advice.
That was his advice?
Yeah, that was his advice. And Jon Stewart was like, just trust me, stay off the internet for a year. Don't read anything about yourself. Just stay off the internet. And Leno was like, write joke, tell joke. Just write joke, tell joke. That's it. That's as simple as thing. If a joke doesn't work, you do another joke. So I had a bunch of calls like that, and I incorporated a little piece of what everybody kind of offered, and it was fun to learn in front of an audience, in front of the camera. I was really into it. It was fun. I loved being with the writers, and I made it a very writer-centric show. And and again, it's like this, Howie, you've got a world you can control, so you're only sitting with people you really want to talk to, for the most part.
You lasted longer than anybody on Fox.
Yeah, we did 3 seasons.
You did 3 seasons. What was it devastating when it ended?
It was. Yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible moment. I think mostly because my father had just died the week before, but he,
sorry.
he went out, thinking I was the late night host, so that was kind of cool.
That's
That's nice for him to see to end on that.
Wow, that's
beat.
a lot of weight to carry.
Yeah, it was a surprisingly bad year, but mostly because of my father's death, not because of the show. But that was kind of dumped on top of it. But yeah, it hurt because I loved doing it. I loved the people, and
your father got to see what he aspired. Right?
He couldn't believe it. He could not believe that I was on TV. It flipped him out. So, and you know the old psychology of why you're doing it. When I was growing up, we didn't really talk to Dad much. He was always at dinner watching Merv Griffin or Mike Douglas. We all would eat dinner watching TV.
How many kids are in your family?
Just 3 kids.
3 kids.
My mom and the dad.
Right, with the 3 kids.
But you're just trying to get on the TV. Once I was on there, and then he called. He goes, "I can't believe you're on the TV." I realized what I had been doing psychologically. was just trying to get his undivided attention, which eventually I did. I was able to do it. But it was an empty thrill.
That's
Isn't that interesting?
It's incredibly interesting and very kind of an emotional, kind of a wonderful moment that you just shared. So you do that, you get canceled, and then is it a tough transition to go back to doing, like right now, as I bumped into you in Malibu, and you're writing Jerry's next movie with him, and the Pop-Tart movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're behind the scenes again. Are you in the movie?
I had a part, and I gave it away.
No. You did?
I did.
What do you mean? Tell me.
I think I'm going to be doing the voice of a character in there, but it was less. It's not that important to me. Like if I were going to make a movie, I wouldn't say no to that. You know what I mean? If I were Jerry in that situation, but playing a part, I just thought, I would rather be here. This is really Jerry's movie. This is his moment. He's starring and directing, and he and I are writing and producing it. And I just wanted to be there to support him and to help him out, not put my own face on. You know what I mean?
You seem to be a very evolved human. Much further ahead than I or anybody I know is. That's pretty impressive. I'm impressed by you. I don't know you. I don't know. Like, I just know your credits, and I know what you've done, and I've watched you. And I said to you that, and I watched your late night show, and I said, "Why aren't you on TV more? I would love to see you on TV." And
Thank you.
If I could be I don't know that you need my help, but if I could do something,
help.
but if I could be a part of or do something with you on camera at some time, I just think you're incredibly smart and witty and good and relatable and real. A lot of things that a lot of people aren't, and I think it would work. And it's kind of a shame that, and that's why I wanted you on this podcast too, because I think that aside from the people who watched late night, they watch all these things, and not that the people on camera shouldn't get the accolades they get, but they're not there without people like you behind. And I think people like you are few and far between as far as that kind of talent.
Thank you.
So I'd love to continue to work with you. You're a great storyteller too, and a great speaker.
Man.
But I guess that a lot of writers, and you probably know more than I do, but a lot of writers aren't really great speakers, great communicators,
right?
Great performers, And you have that.
Yeah.
You check those boxes.
Well, that's years of podcasting now. I do the Spike's Car Radio Comedy and Cars podcast. Really, the podcasting, as you know, talking for an hour, really relaxes you and helps you tell a story better. And yeah.
But you're a car nut, like some of the other comics we've talked about.
Really? I mean, I don't like that term. I like to drive. I don't golf. I drive.
When I met you, you were on a bike.
Yeah.
Yes, but
my kids were so impressed. They're like, "Is that how?" My son says, "Is that Howie Mandel? America's Got Talent?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's him." He goes, "Why is he talking to you?" The implication being, I don't have talent. And then he said, "Because you have no talent." And he wasn't being sarcastic. He was very impressed that I knew you. And I said, "I don't really." He goes, "So what was he asking?" I go, "I think I'm going to do his podcast." He goes, "He books it on the bike path?"
I do.
Malibu is the place. You saw him in Malibu?
Yeah.
Malibu's the
Yeah.
place he goes to find our guests.
Yeah.
It's now been like 4 guests from Malibu.
Malibu's a good. If you're starting a podcast, go to Malibu or
It is
Santa Monica
perfect. Yeah.
and
Chases
book your
people
own.
down. Yeah.
But what's amazing is that I do get to pass and see people that I just am so in awe of, and you are included in that group. I just think that you're really within the business. I think people are giving you your props, but I don't think that. I think that you deserve more
What
notoriety.
Wow.
You know, but
Let's do it.
I want to. If there's
Are you still
any,
developing?
It only
Show-
complicates your life.
What
That
do you mean?
notoriety.
Yeah, and I don't mean notoriety. Like I don't look to get
Yeah.
recognized, and I don't even look to.
I know what you're saying. I know
But
what you're
just
saying.
just in front of camera is the seller. You know, sometimes, and maybe it's because I'm a stand-up also. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know that if it's really exciting if I write something that I think is really funny and
Yeah.
will be enjoyed by a mass audience.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine as somebody who's constantly been in front of the camera, though I produce other things, but I don't produce what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I produce other things for other people. But it would be hard for me to see that person standing in front of the room, the audience roaring and laughing and applauding, and
Yeah,
without saying, you know, I wrote that. I wrote that. You think that's funny? That's me. That's just the guy saying what I told him to
Yeah,
say.
yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
that's a real hard, I don't understand that position.
Yeah. Well, that's just 36 years in the business. There, you know, in a lot of ways, something like the Soup Nazi helps with that.
Yeah.
You've done it. What does it do for you, really? You know,
You collect cars?
I do. Yeah, yeah.
What's your most prized possession?
Well, there, you know, I like old Porsches. I have an old Land Rover I'm really into right now. But you know, I worked for Dave. You know, I remember the day Dave heard that I was a car guy. I was called up to his office. Hey, I hear you like cars. He goes, check out this Volkswagen Rabbit. It's got ground effects on it. I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know anything. I just like these things. And he goes, yeah, that's like aerodynamics. It pulls the car under. It's like, this is good. He goes, well, yeah, come out for the Emmy, Spike. I want you to come out to Santa Monica Airport and drive my cars. All right, get out. And, you know, that was my first or second week at Letterman. They were coming out for the Emmys. They brought me along, even though I wasn't nominated. And on Saturday morning, I was out with Dave at Santa Monica Airport, and he said, here, there you go. Here are the cars. There's a Ferrari, there's a Porsche. Go ahead and drive them.
And you just drive them around on the runways, on the tarmac there?
These are the questions I was asking. Like, what do you mean?
Like, what does that mean?
Get on the runway. You know, no, don't go on the runway, for heaven's sakes. That's not for you. And I go, but, you know, it was just another nerve-wracking day in my life where one of his cars did break down. He goes,
With you in it?
With me in it.
So did you break
And
it?
he's pretending to be cool and fine with it, and he called, you know, where are you? And I go, oh, something happened with the car. You know, I took it outside the airport and I was pushing it down 31st Street. You know where Ocean Park is?
Yeah.
And he you know, what happened? Now he was serious, and it wasn't. And,
Your second week there, you're pushing his car back.
pushing his car after the throttle wire broke. Thankfully, because his detail guy left a rag in the engine. He'd cleaned the engine or something, and it got caught, and then a thing just snapped. So
it wasn't you.
it
But-
wasn't me, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter. I lost
But that
50
sounds like-
pounds that morning.
But that sounds like weeks of forensics to find out that it was the cloth. Like how long before you realized
he
it
opened
wasn't?
up the back, and the rag was in there. And he
Oh,
goes,
okay.
"Oh, what the fuck is this?" And then redirected his frustrations.
Jerry is known as a Porsche collector. Is that
Yeah.
how you got into the Porsche?
So there was 5 years of Dave and cars, and Dave was like, "You're a Porsche guy," and I said, "I don't want to be a Porsche guy. I never liked that guy. You know, you grow up watching Caddyshack and the puking through the roof of that. You remember?
Right.
You know, it's always assholes." He goes, "No, that's movies." He goes, "These cars are simple go-kart like experiences." And he go, "Drive one, you'll love it." And that was the upshot of that day. I got in that car, one of the old Porsches, and I went, "Boy, this feels perfect.
Right.
I really like this. This is the type of thing I want to drive." And they weren't even that expensive back in the day. And then, you know, spinning out of, and I bought a 911. I bring that 911 to LA and pull in this old ratty old car with 300,000 miles, rust and everything else. And Jerry sees it and he goes, whose car is that? And I go, it's mine. He goes, yeah, right car, wrong example. You need to get a new one. Another confusing boss moment. I need to buy a new car. Why? Well, Jerry's a Porsche guy, and then he and I kind of bonded over that and have been friends ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, and Leno too. I wrote for Jay when he was guesting on the Tonight Show on Mondays, and we would talk cars.
So
but I'm
when
not. I'm not like Jay. Like let me show you the Wankel engine. Yeah, it's really. My eyes kind of glaze over. I just like to drive. I like to drive.
You said that you were writing for Jay on the Mondays.
Yeah,
and you went for Letterman. How do you feel about the whole? Because I've had Jay. I'm good friends with Jay. How do you feel about the whole Jay Leno Conan debacle?
I kind of predicted it. I remember privately saying that was going to happen.
I felt like he was vilified he didn't deserve
unfairly. Yeah,
unfairly.
Yeah,
He was forced to. Getting emotional about it?
No, I just get a runny nose when I podcast.
Okay. I just thought I brought up something that was very emotional.
Yeah, I'm wiping tears away.
No, I felt he was vilified, but I'm saying you were.
I guess he was, and I know it's a very hot button issue for some reason, but anybody working in television knows how vicious this business is.
It's horrible.
Right? And, I admire everything Conan did and still do. He's an amazing career, but the show was not working at the time,
right.
And NBC blinked and panicked, and back then that was a big deal, and they needed to do something. And why is that Jay's fault? It's not Jay's fault.
Right.
It's not Jay's fault.
I'm with you on 100%. So I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. You're real interesting and wonderful, and hopefully this is maybe the first step to maybe doing things in the future. I would love to see you.
I'm so flattered, Howie. I would love to.
Don't be flattered because it's amazing.
Well, people don't generally say these things about me. It's nice that you are.
Well, I happen to be on a podcast, and I've said it to you on the bike path, but I just don't think if somebody comes up to you in a restaurant, they're going to say it. But I don't think I'm alone in my thought. Oh, yeah, we should also mention that he got his brother into the business. His brother. I just found out today. His brother is Wally on the Fallon show and on the Tonight
Seth Meyer.
On Seth Meyer, the cue card guy.
Wally, the cue card guy.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say Wally the robot.
Yes.
Who's that?
Wally,
the movie?
That's Wally.
Wally.
That's Wally.
Wall-E.
Not Wally.
No, I thought.
It might be related. It might be, but he's the cue card, and you got him into the business.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic.
I did, but he turned it into a whole thing.
Yeah, he said, I want to be like my brother. I want to be a writer.
No, he was the first one. He actually said he went to college in Syracuse, and I said, what are you going to major in? He goes, I want to be a writer. I want to be a screenwriter. And I went, oh, that's interesting.
But now he actually writes, not even cursive. He actually writes the lines that people read.
I don't think I would have had that idea. That maybe that's why it was in my head that he was thinking about it. I frankly, I went, that's a job. You can write, you get paid to write.
You said there's three
TV
of you
and
though,
movies.
right?
And my sister, she works for Amazon in London. She's some sort of Amazon executive.
In London, England.
In London, England, yeah.
Right, because I come from Canada. There's London, Ontario,
Oh,
which
yeah,
is not
no.
as exotic.
Nobody knows about that.
I told them about it right now. Anyway, Spike, you're amazing.
Thank
you so much for
Thank you.
taking my invitation seriously and showing up. It means the world to me. And what do you want to plug? The podcast? What do you want to plug?
Spike's Car Radio.
Spike's Car Radio. And
Yeah.
the movie is called
The
what?
movie is called Unfrosted, but it won't be out till next year.
On Netflix,
we're
right?
editing it right now. I've got to go back to the edit room. But it's
You-
on Netflix. It's Jerry is starring in it, and Amy Schumer's in it, and Melissa McCarthy's in it, and it was super fun. We'll come back and we'll talk about it.
I would love you.
I know Jerry will come back, right?
Yep, bring him back. I would love him too.
You asked him on. He said he wanted to come on.
Then hopefully
We'll
you'll
come
both
on when we can
come
promote.
on together
Yeah.
and promote it.
Yeah.
All right? Thank you. That's good.
Fun.
You're really good. You're a good talker.